Welcome back to the Emerging Growth Conference. We've had a great day so far, some fantastic presentations of these companies that are really doing a lot out there in many different sectors. And we're happy to bring our next guest and our next company. We have Healixa, Inc. It trades on the OTC Pink sheets under the symbol EMOR and is a technology company with assets in both HealthTech and FinTech, which is marrying code and care to create exceptional experiences in health technology. Joining us is the CEO of Healixa, Ian Parker. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Thank you for having us back. Really appreciate it. Your team does a great job, and thank you very much for everything.
Great. Well, we always look forward to your presentation, so the floor is yours whenever you're ready, Ian.
Great. Thank you. So a couple of things of note that I want to say before we start. Our ticker our name is now reflected on our ticker as of this morning. So our ticker does say, the EMR ticker does say Healixa on it. So that's obviously very important to us, since now our security is married up to our branding. I will just FYI to everybody out there that because the name changed today with FINRA, there may be some delays in being able to trade the security until tomorrow, as the QSIP updates and everything else. So if you have any issues, those should be resolved in the next 24 hours within the system. Obviously, our name Healixa reflects all of our healing technologies that we have in the system. I've been asked recently, what does it mean? What do you mean by healing technologies? And to put it quite simply, we're looking at, when we define healing technologies, we're talking about ethically designed, ethically engineered, paradigm shifting technologies that will have a profound and positive impact on people's lives. And obviously the core part of that, you can't do that without having a robust healthcare platform. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Very quickly, we have our forward-looking statement disclaimer, and I will keep this up here for about 5 seconds. And then I'm going to jump right into how the platform actually works and how it was designed. So what we have here is our virtual care platform. As you can see, all the way to the left is how the doctors connect to the patients virtually. That system, that is the telehealth system, or the virtual care system. It's really the way the doctors communicate with the patients. What we've noticed over time is that, and from other larger companies where we have people that have worked at some of these larger virtual care companies, and what we've noticed over time is that if you don't have a broad scope of practice and you're only treating acute and common conditions, it's not a great way to have a long-term relationship with the patient. So when we built the system, we made sure that we kept in mind that we want to have a complete care ecosystem. We want to keep, when the patient comes in, we don't want to have to just treat the patient and say, go find your therapy elsewhere. We want them to be able to come in, and we want to be able to service as many of their needs as possible right here in the system. So in order to do that, we put in place the patient monitoring piece. And that's a very important part of what we do. What that allows us to do is support a broad range of specialties on the platform. When you look at other virtual care platforms, the reason you are limited in the types of specialties that you can support is you're not getting real-time data back to the clinician to make a diagnosis. By integrating into the phone, into the camera on your phone, software that allows us to take your vital signs directly from your face, just looking directly into your face, and now it looks past your skin into your blood flow in your face. That's the infrared camera on all these phones. These are incredibly powerful tools these days. That allows us to take the vital signs and report that back to the clinicians. What that allows us to do is now support a broader range of specialties on the platform. Now let's talk about how that helps the digital pharmacy piece. On the digital pharmacy side, they have the same scope of practice issues on the virtual care side as the physicians do. They don't, because of the limitation in the types of physicians or the types of specialties that you can support, you are limited in the types of therapies you can prescribe virtually. by expanding that with the virtual patient monitoring, we can now expand the types of virtual prescriptions that we can service within the platform. And within this platform, what the digital pharmacy allows us to do is get you your prescriptions when you need them, where you need them. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how that hub and spoke system works and how it's integrated with a last mile solution to get you the therapies when you need them. The last piece of this platform is unique to us, and it's very important to our overall strategy, which is we hear Wall Street talk about user lifetime value a lot, and the question is, well, how do you increase user lifetime value? And my simple response to that is you keep providing the user more value. It's a very simple equation. The more value I provide you, the more user lifetime value you have. So by having the e-wallet integrated into the system, which is our proprietary banking software, that allows us to verify your identity. Once we verify your identity, we can now capture your personal information. We can then go search government and charitable aid that may be available to you to help you with your healthcare needs, your medication needs, also housing and food, because most of the time people looking for housing and food will also need aid in other places as well. So the goal is to make sure that we bring the value, a complete care package, to anybody that's using the system. In terms of how the system is supported, we have our national medical group, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. There's going to be a lot more coming on that, as we go through the next few weeks as to who is joining our advisory board on the national medical group side. It's very crucial that we have that national medical group because that allows us to expand the types of specialties quickly. Now, that said, the only way we can do that is having an advanced virtual care system that has that remote patient monitoring piece, that real-time data getting fed back to the clinicians. And that's what our virtual care piece does. And once again, the way that you really make significant revenues in this model is through the integrated digital pharmacy, because that's where you're really recognizing revenue through the script counts. So more physicians means more scripts means more revenue. In terms of what makes the platform unique, I hear a lot of people say we're seeing a lot of technology catch up to the healthcare system, and it's actually the other way around. It's actually that the healthcare system, or healthcare in America, has been a slow adopter of digital solutions. And what you're seeing right now because of COVID is 10 years worth of adoption happening in a very condensed time frame. So it's not necessarily about who has what the best solution for any particular fragment of the healthcare system. It's who has the best complete solution. And that's what we've designed, is we've unified all these fragmented pieces and we've created a complete care continuum. We've done that by making sure that we brought on people that have experience in patient advocacy, physicians, payers, pharmacists, technologists. All of those people, we've brought in a broad range of disciplines to make sure that we design this in a way that is very unified. And that's what you see here, is this unification of the system. There are other people out there that will have pieces of this, but you won't find all of these pieces inside of one system. And that's what this system does. So it makes Healixa very unique, and it also allows us to make sure that we keep the patients out of the highest cost of service areas, office, hospitals, so forth. And we make it easy for the pharmacists and the doctors to use, so that they can treat the patients efficiently and quickly. In terms of where we are with the digital strategy on the pharmacy side, we just announced 2 acquisitions. Those are 2 very important acquisitions for us because they're 2 key building blocks in what we're doing. Our technology team is now centralized in Dallas, Texas. Our pharmacy operations and central command is now centralized in Dallas, Texas. And now we're ready to move out of pilot and directly into a national rollout. Key pieces of this, and I want to make this point because I have to tip my hat to a few people. You'll notice that there was a press release about Jessica. Jessica is an incredible person. She has helped build companies from 5 employees to 5,000 employees. She has helped scale them very quickly. So having a person that has that experience and that talent on our team, we are very lucky to have that. She's going to be able to help us scale this very quickly as the script count grows. In addition to that, we've also picked up additional team members that have serviced significant amounts of revenue in other pharmacies, and we're now ready to start building out the hub and spoke system that we need for last mile delivery around the country. You're starting to see those pieces percolate, and there's going to be a lot more on that as we move forward. In terms of how the system was designed, I think this is very, very important. When we started talking about this, I think, especially on our side, on the executive team, we sort of defined user as patients. And what we quickly realized as we brought on more executive talent is that there's not just one user using this system. There's multiple users, and they all need to get their requirements addressed within the system in order to have a real efficient value to all of them. So if you look at, and why is that important to you as the patient? So if you're the patient, let me give you an example. You go to your doctor, and the doctor prescribes a medication. And you then go to the pharmacist to pick up that medication. And now one of 3 things is going to happen. Either you go there and they say, okay, we have your medication. And by the way, it's $5 copay, and have a great day. Or in the alternative, you go there and they say, well, we don't have your medication. You don't have your prescription. So you'll have to come back later, which is very frustrating for you, very expensive for the doctor and the physician, because it creates more work on the back end of providing the therapy. Or in the alternative, you go there and they say, yeah, great news, we have your script, but it's going to be $4,000 for your therapy, at which point in time you say, well, hold on a second. I have insurance. And the pharmacist says, okay, I understand. We're going to have to get in contact with the physician to do either a medication change request or prior authorization. When we built this system, we addressed all of those things within the system so that there is a seamless process, a seamless user experience for all 3 of these constituents. And it's very important that we make that clear, because it's not just when we define user, it's not just the patient, it's the patient, the physician, and the pharmacist. In terms of advanced patient monitoring, this is some pretty cool tech. It allows us to use the infrared on your phone, as I said before, to look at specific biomarkers in your face and take very specific readings from you. Blood pressure, pulse rate, breathing rate, oxygen rate, cardiac workload, various other things, and there's more coming. So the way this works is that since your skin is translucent, what it allows us to do with the infrared is look past your skin and look directly at that blood flow and pick up all of this data and instantly transmit it back to the physician. Now let's talk about what that means to our team. Our team has a significant amount of experience in virtual care. So when you look at our team has collectively run close to $900 million in sales at other virtual care platforms. They have onboarded more than 75 million lives over the course of their careers, and they've onboarded over 80,000 physicians and managed over 50,000 remote patient monitoring programs. This team has the ability to scale this very rapidly, and also get the word out to the physicians about this very powerful program. What does the program do for the physicians and the patients and the pharmacists? Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Because of that remote patient monitoring, we can now give the physicians the data that they need and the information they need to virtually prescribe things that they couldn't do before. It also allows us to put on more specialties, more therapies that we can prescribe. It also creates a recurring reimbursement for those particular specialties. So it's a very powerful value proposition for everybody involved. In addition, it helps us make sure that there's patient adherence and that the patient's treatment is stable. So instead of if you're taking a particular therapy and you would otherwise need to come into the office every 4 weeks to get particular vital signs read, we can now do that virtually. Once again, keeping the patient out of the most expensive cost of service areas. And again, expanding the virtual therapies is the magic in terms of revenues. In terms of the access, so this particular program was run as a pilot elsewhere for a particular type of facility. And what it allowed, what it was created to do was take somebody's personal information, verify their identities, and then take that information and filter through various government databases and various charitable databases to see what type of aid they qualify for. And what it also allows you to do is submit that aid right there in the application. And if you're qualified, it'll then allow you to receive those payments directly into your bank. Why is this important? Well, the reason this is important is that over the course of this COVID crisis, what we've seen is a lot of people in need and a lot of people in need of subsidies. And what we've noticed is that it takes close to 6 to 8 weeks to actually get those subsidies. And you got to push a lot of paperwork back and forth. And there's a lot of attrition in the system because people just can't make it through the maze of paperwork. What this software allows us to do is cut that down to 3 days. 1 to 3 days, you'll know whether or not you qualify or whether or not you don't qualify. And if you do qualify, you can submit the application right there from this system and receive the payments when you need them. The next part of this is taking this entire system out to the people, out to the lives, taking it out of pilot and then scaling it quickly. So we entered into a joint venture with Health Services Hub that they currently have about 3.2 million lives, slightly more than that now, in their overall system. We can now take this entire platform and now we fill this entire ecosystem that we built with lives, and we can start marketing to it. So that marketing has already started to happen, and we're going to continue to build on that as we go. But now you can see how the value of this company can increase exponentially. Now that we have the ecosystem and we filled it with lives, this can scale very, very quickly. Let's just take a quick case study as to why the system is flexible enough to deliver care to almost any population. We were challenged with looking at an elderly elder care and long-term care. And one of the things that we noticed early on was that the problem we had was not necessarily that the facilities didn't want to have virtual care in their system. The problem that we had was having doctors actually treat those patients. They were somewhat adverse to treating those patients because, these are typically patients that have a complicated chart. They usually don't have one condition. They have multiple conditions. They don't have one medication they're taking. They have multiple medications they're taking. So in order to address that, when we showed the doctors what they were getting back in terms of real-time data through the virtual care platform, through the remote patient monitoring, and allowed them to do from a virtual remote patient monitoring standpoint, we were able to create a program that addressed not only the patient's needs, but the clinician's needs. And that's how this, that's what happens when you have a complete solution and a unified solution in one place. This is just a quick snapshot here of how we sort of stack up against other groups. If you look at other groups, there's very few that have all of the sections filled out here, right? So from a pharmacy standpoint, what you see is that we're ahead of most of our pharmacy competition. There are some that are doing an excellent job, but we are ahead of them at this moment in time. And then on the virtual care side, we've stayed ahead of our competition on that side as well. So very happy with the progress we're making. There's some very incredible individuals that are joining the team as we speak. I'm looking forward to announcing those over the coming weeks here. And we're really looking forward to announcing how we're doing in terms of pilot, going from pilot to launch. So launch has started, and we're very excited about talking about that in the coming weeks here through the press releases. So at any rate, Brett Hedges is Senior Vice President. If you have any questions or like to set up a call, like to speak to us one-on-one, please reach out to Brett. He's happy to set it up. And again, in terms of our ticker, EMOR is still our ticker. And if you have any issues trading today, you will not have any issues trading tomorrow. So, but we are very happy that our name is now properly reflected on our security.
Thank you so much. Great presentation as always. And we do have quite a few questions for you, Ian.
Sure.
All right. So what are, if any HIPAA hurdles that you need to bypass with this technology?
So HIPAA is one of those things that we addressed early on. We have an excellent compliance team, and one of the reasons that the people that I mentioned that you don't see, that I always tip my hat at when I go on any program, they are the people that are doing just a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to make sure that we comply with all of those regulations. We have been very careful to make sure we comply with anything in regards to confidentiality, privacy, and so forth. So right now there are no hurdles that we'd have to address. They have been addressed already. And if there is anything that comes up, we would address it very rapidly within the system. The system is designed to make sure that those type of security issues can be addressed quickly if regulations change.
Can you talk a little bit about how insurance companies and costs come into play with your platform? And if your platform goes mainstream, do you think that will help the cost of insurance?
I would say yes. So certainly, we'll talk about insurance for a second in terms of data. So insurance companies are always looking to collect more data. Collecting more data allows them to be more efficient. By having a virtual care or a remote patient monitoring piece built in, we become very attractive to the insurance companies to make sure that they collect that data. And then it also helps the insured stay out of the highest cost areas of service, hospitals, office, so forth. So again, making sure that we address the needs of all of the constituencies is really the key. So by one of the ones that we did not talk about in the presentation is the insurance companies. We do address that by virtue of having the data and making sure that we show them that there is a cost savings within the system.
So does whether or not a person have insurance come into play when it comes to additional government or charitable benefits? And does this go to large deductibles that some insured have already?
It could. So, I mean, there's a lot of qualifications that happen. So if you're looking for government aid, just go back to this slide. There's a a lot of different government aid and charitable aid and even manufacturer subsidies that come into play. So the system is designed to help you navigate that quickly, right? If you're trying to do it on your own, if you're just jumping from website to website or trying to figure out whether or not you qualify, it's going to take you a significant amount of time. It's a complex question because it's going to work on a case-by-case basis depending on who your insurance carrier is, what type of coverage you have, what type of income you have, and so forth. So being able to quickly verify somebody's identity, capture their personal information, and being able to search those databases is the magic behind the access issue.
Since the patients are not necessarily in front of the doctor, does this open up the doctor to any increased liability?
So the answer is no. There's a lot of case studies on that. And if you look at, the people that we have on our team have been some of the pioneers in virtual care. It doesn't, as long as everybody's following a proper workflow and everything is being done correctly. So if you look at the way the people that designed our system are experts at virtual care. They've been there since the beginning. They've been there through the changes in regulations. And we've made sure that we've included all of those workflows into the system. And that was designed by the doctors themselves. So the answer is no, it does not. And that's because the doctors are working with the carriers themselves to make sure that they do everything necessary to ensure that you have a proper protocol to treat the patient.
Okay. Is the last mile delivery service company Uber or Lyft? And also, are you directly working with the last mile company to deliver prescriptions?
So I can't answer that question right now. What I can say is that it is a globally recognized tech-enabled platform. It is a first-class platform, and yes, it'd be one that you recognize. That said, we would be using it to deliver scripts, and it would have national coverage.
Okay. Do you have any patents on your technology or your process, or can you get any in the future?
On some things we have patents. On others we do not. There are certain things that there are certain things that are patented within the system. There are certain things that are just trade secret. In terms of our workflows, those are all proprietary to us. So the answer is it's a mix of both patents and trade secrets, and then expertise.
On your balance sheet, you have an item defined as goodwill. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. So the goodwill is from acquisitions that we've made over time, from the original reverse merger as well, that happened over 2 years ago. So those are all things that allowed us to put pieces in place to get to this point in time.
What is the share structure of the company, and are there any plans of uplisting from OTC Pink in the works?
Sure. Share structure is primarily common. Very little. There is no other class at the moment. That may change in a little bit as we sort of onboard some other executives. But that said, it's all common. You can see our share count online at OTC Markets. Yes, the answer is yes. There is a plan to uplist. We are in the process of putting all of those pieces in place so we can do that in the not so distant future. Some of those timings are not up to us, obviously, and will depend on other outside parties. So I'm reluctant to give a time frame, but we are going to move as expeditiously as possible to get there.
What major companies in this space would your product fit best with?
In terms of facilities, or in terms of practitioners, clinicians?
Maybe the top of each one of those you mentioned. Is there one or two that stick out? Sure.
So the answer is that it's flexible. So if we go back to just how it's designed, it's all of these can be modularized. So we can, it's not a one solution fits all situation. It's not a situation where we would go and say, okay, well, you have to take the whole thing or nothing. So the answer is we could fit a lot of different situations. It really depends on what their need is. So if it's a large facility and they already have a telehealth platform involved in that facility, and the only thing they need is our digital pharmacy solution, or maybe they need us to be a backup pharmacy solution, then we can do that. So the answer to your question is it can be flexible to fit almost any of those. We have a pipeline of transactions, and obviously the ones that would result in the most revenue are taking sort of precedence right now.
And what are you doing to fund your ongoing operations? Are you raising money with equity? And if so, what valuation, or debt? And if so, is it convertible, and at what price?
So it's been primarily convertible debt from friendly investors, from either principals or investors that are friendly to the company. That has been at $1 a share. So there's nothing that's convertible below that at this time.
Okay. Well, what is your timeline goal for showing revenue and in turn a profit with your system? Talk a little bit about a timeline.
So in terms of revenues, we're going to see revenues. This quarter is going to result in revenues. I'm reluctant to give guidance on that until we make it through sort of the initial phases of the rollout. I would love to come back and do that. Maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll come back and talk about exactly how the rollout's going. I've been doing this long enough to know that there's no perfect plan. So I think we have an idea of what that looks like, but I'm reluctant to commit to anything until I see exactly how the rollout is moving. In terms of profitability, it's designed to make a profit immediately. So I mean, if you look at my experience, at Mike's experience, we both come from spaces where we're always looking to have things in the black. We're not we don't like to see it red. So we do expect to maintain profitability while we grow the company. Obviously, there would be more draw on marketing expense and other types of awareness expenses in the beginning. But our goal is not to be in the red.
Last question, Ian. What hurdles do you see for exponential growth going forward, and how are you going to overcome them?
Having had to scale other companies in my life, one of the challenges is always having the right people in place when you hit that moment of when you hit that inflection point and growth starts to happen. So if you look at the types of people that we have brought on, the types of people that have joined our team, the reason that this is crucial to us is that it allows us to scale quickly, right? When you have teams like this that have done these types of things before, it's muscle memory now. Now we have the ability to scale it quickly. So I don't think we have. That's always going to be the challenge, and I think we've turned that challenge into an opportunity by virtue of the people we brought on.
Would you like to make any closing statements?
Just once again, I'd like to first thank you and the Emerging Growth team for having us back, and thank you for making it easy to make the presentation. Really appreciate it. I'm very comfortable in my executive office here, so I really appreciate it. And also, I want to thank our team for making this year a pilot to launch moment, right? So we just started this year, April 1st. That's our fiscal year end is March 31. So I want to thank everybody for hitting our timelines and making it happen.
Fantastic. Well, always enjoy hearing your updates, Ian, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, we've had a great conference. We've got one more company coming up. So please stay with us as we transition to the next presenter. Remember, you're going to see a black screen for just a moment. We might take a few minute break, so stay with us and we'll be popping right back on for our last presentation. Thank you all. We'll be right back.